That's why we're not recommending flowers. As much as I love flowers, you know, they're temporary, they don't last long. But these guys, given the proper care, will probably show your appreciation, in some cases, probably longer than your relationship. Okay, I'm not jinxing anybody. Hi everybody, it's Melissa, your plantita abogada here at Tasteful Nodes, coming to you today with some Valentine's Day plant gift-giving advice, right? So I've got 14 plants that I would definitely recommend to anybody who's looking for a planty gift for a loved one, a friend, someone you want to apologize to. Yeah. And I've got a scam out there that you guys should keep an eye out for. I mean, it's a sweet gesture and all, but you guys should be aware of it, especially if you're going to be gifting plants, because nothing says I love you or I'm sorry like gifting a dead plant, right? Before we jump into all of that, let's go ahead and get through our 3 disclaimers. 1, KKB tayo. By this time, everybody should know what this means. Kanya-kanyang bayad. We each pay our own way. We have plans for different budgets here, so please, please, please don't spend your rent money. Number 2, I'm not an expert, so any factual information that I do share, I'll be sure to put the source at the bottom of the screen, as well as in the description box down below. And then number 3, since I'm not an expert, any information that I do relay are based on my own personal experiences, growing conditions, weather. If you and I live in a similar place where it's hot, deserty, tropical, yeah, right? Doesn't make sense, but I promise that's what our microclimate is here. If we live in a similar climate, we're good. If not, I would suggest that you find someone in your area who has experience with these plants I'm about to introduce to you. Find out people who have raised them, where they've purchased them, what their growing conditions are at home or outside. Yeah, make some friends, find out how these work in your area, and let's, make these plants flourish. Now with that out of the way, we've got some heart shapes, we've got some reds, we've got some pinks, and we have some oddities, right? I understand that not everybody is into hearts or pink or red, and that's why I did include some fun plants. Let's call them fun plants. We've got a couple of them right there, one right here, and at price points across the board so that everybody has something to share with their loved ones come Valentine's Day. Since we are talking about Valentine's Day, the Day of Hearts, let's jump into the heart-shaped leaves first, shall we? Fantastic. The first plant on my list is Philodendron grazielae, and it would be this gorgeous guy right here in the corner, if you see him. So we've got heart-shaped leaves. Don't mind the pot. I didn't clean the pot. And don't mind the dying leaf at the bottom. Like I said, I haven't had much time to clean these guys. But super easy plants. This guy, oh geez. So I have one of these guys growing in my greenhouse, and he's growing on the concrete wall. Growing on the concrete wall, guys. Yeah, this one I found laying in some plants, hence the leaves are also laying down. Yeah, go figure. But super easy. I mean, just doing his own thing. And as you can see here, the leaves are fun. Just hearts all over the place, just gorgeous. And I've got a new leaf coming out, despite the fact that he was just, lazing around the greenhouse. So it's an easy plant. Just water every other day in our conditions, which is dry, hot, and tropical. And he's doing fine. Granted, we have not reached the worst of our summer yet, but based on the guy who's growing on the concrete, yeah, they like these conditions. Water only when the top portion of the soil is dry, and you're good to go, right? How about a whole bunch of little hearts for your someone special? Plant number 2 on my list is this special guy. And check out those beautiful leaves, right? They've got these gorgeous silver veinings. You've got these wonderful heart-shaped leaves. I mean, what is not to love? Sorry about the mess. It is an Anthurium. Yeah, so my medium is a little bit on the drier side for this guy, but that's what they like. That's what they prefer in this area. So this, my friends, is a Indonesian hybrid. And I'm trying to, yeah. So it's an Indonesian hybrid, And according to our seller, this is an Anthurium Dorayaki by Silver Blush. And it is a stunner. It's a little stunner. We have ours growing in a mix of leca, some cocoa coir, so that's like the coconut dust. We have some coconut cubes in ours, as well as some moss. So really, really lightweight. Really, it's not dense at all. So we always have to make sure that we have this media moist, not dry, not soaking wet. Well, I mean, you can't even really soaking wet it. We like to water our plants until all the water falls out of the bottom. And it's fine. That's because our media is so light and airy with these big chunks of coconut cubes and the smaller chunks of leca. So there's water drainage properties as well as water retentive properties through the moss and the cocoa coir. Yeah, so I would definitely recommend a light potting mix for these guys, not something too heavy. I mean, it's doing great. It won't budge out of my potting mix. And that's considering this is a light potting mix. Extra impressive for that. So for the record, we got this for about 1,500 pesos, which is the equivalent of about 30 USD. So it's something that is definitely within range for a lot of people. The trick is you gotta buy it from Indonesia, and that's where the extra fees may actually come as a surprise. If you are interested in buying from Indonesia, what I would do is I would find a reputable seller, one, and then two, I would find, like I said in the beginning, remember the third disclaimer, find people in your area. So if you have friends who are also interested in plants, see if the seller has plants that all of you guys are looking for, so that you guys could pitch into the fees, like the shipping fee and the phytosanitary fee. You guys could chip in and break that up and make it a little bit more palatable, easier for your budgets. That is definitely my tip for dealing with foreign or Indonesian plants, for that matter, since we're talking about an Indonesian hybrid. And here's another shot of that. It's just a gorgeous plant, and I've seen these grow bigger. So if you want something that is something new, something unique to the market, something that not many people have, I would recommend an Anthurium Dorayaki by Silver Blush. So the next plant on my list, as you know, we're continuing talking about hearts and anthuriums, is this one, the Anthurium clarinervium. Now, the clarinervium is a species plant, and I'm not too sure if this is a species because the person I bought it from was also under the impression that it might have been a hybrid. There are some hybrids. There's one hybrid in particular that I think this may be. That's the Anthurium king. And that remains to be seen when this guy gets bigger. But the veining pattern does seem correct. In any case, Anthurium clarinervium should be something that's easier to find since it is a species plant and has been on the market for a little bit longer. So I would definitely recommend any kind of Anthurium clarinervium. They've got these gorgeous leaves with this beautiful veining pattern. This one in particular has some pink. I could actually see the pink veins on the back, and you could see some right here in the sinus area. I mean, just gorgeous. And I mean hearts, right? Perfect gift for your king or queen of hearts. So I understand that not everybody is into smaller leaves. That's fine. I understand that sometimes size does matter. I mean, it doesn't to me. I'll take all the plants, but for people who like big plants, if your king or queen is into bigger things, bigger is better, I would recommend a Philodendron SP Colombia. And if you look at this plant right here, that giant new leaf right up there, the leaves are quilted, they're substantial, they've got this leathery feel to them, and I mean, just a perfect embodiment of a heart, right? Look at that. Super easy plant to care for. I have 3 giant ones. It was a mistake. It was an accident. No, it wasn't any accident. I propagated and I just didn't feel like selling them. So now I have 3 giants. But like I said, super easy plant to care for. I mean, if you choose to buy one of these for a Valentine, then I would absolutely recommend it just for the ease of care. The space will be questionable, so make sure that the person you're gifting does have a lot of space. They do start out smaller, right? And then they grow massive. And this is my biggest one, and this one actually did start out pretty small, maybe this size. Yeah, my other two are not much smaller. So the perfect recipient for this kind of plant is somebody who has a lot of space, who has a bright indirect sunlight area. So this guy was the one who in my older videos lived behind my left side. Yeah, this is the guy, and he's humongous. The other two live in my shade house, my net house, and there's 70% shade there, still really bright, and they enjoy sunlight, just not directly on their leaves because they tend to burn. So the next plant on my list made it on the list because it is an easier version of a more difficult philodendron to raise. If you live in the Philippines, you know that our summers usually cause our plants to turn into chicharron, pork cracklings. That's a joke, right? The leaves turn brown and pork crackling like, yeah. This plant is so easy compared to its parent plant. I am referring to the Philodendron Glorious. Now the Philodendron Glorious, this massive guy right here, I've got two of them. They're both huge. This has two heads. Anyway, it is a hybrid of Philodendron Gloriosum and Philodendron Melanochrysum. The joke here in the Philippines is that it is called Melanocry because it will make you cry. Yeah, it's bad. Unless you understand how to grow Melanochrysum here in the Philippines, it doesn't do well here. Everywhere across the country, I mean, with exception of maybe 2 or 3 places that I could think of off the top of my head, gets really, really bad in the summer. Super bad. I'm a Fahrenheit type of girl, and 30 degrees Celsius here usually means trouble. It means it's hot. It means it's dry. And 30 degrees Celsius is 86 degrees Fahrenheit. Not too bad, right? When you think about it in the US. I mean, I've had higher temps in Ohio, but that's just the temperature. It's not the feel. So it feels a lot worse most of the time. And there are days in the Philippines where it goes up even over 30 degrees Celsius. And when you're dealing with a Melanochrysum, that is not a good thing. Chicharron happens. I mean, it dries up and shrivels and dies. Now, the trick to that is you gotta water daily. During the summer, sometimes twice a day would help. Yeah, it's really bad. Another reason Melanochrysum angers a lot of newer or new to them plant owners is because the leaves don't really grow up. And the secret behind that is Melanochrysum is a climber and therefore needs to climb. If you don't let it climb, it won't produce those huge giant leaves, right? We finally gave ours a tree, a tree, you guys, after, gosh, I think a year and a half, and it started producing bigger leaves. It didn't start throwing off leaves as soon as it would produce one, because it used to give us a new leaf and then have a new leaf die. None of that. So that's what the Melanochrysum wants. It wants to climb, and it wants to be baby during the summer. It doesn't like the hot. It doesn't like getting burnt. You need to treat it with love and affection, the prima donna that it is. But the Glorious takes after the Gloriosum in temperament. Okay, this plant is easy. This is the guy that was behind me in some of my earlier videos. Yeah, one time we sprayed it with, it was a neem mixture. It didn't do well, and some of the leaves burnt. But it has recovered nicely, as you can see from the newer leaves. Just gorgeous. In fact, oddly enough, our newest leaf has sport variegation on it. It's the weirdest thing, but pretty cool. Anyway, they're easy plants to care for. The Glorious can be trained to be a little bit upright, as it is here. The Gloriosum is a crawler. Melanochrysum is a climber, and this guy can't make up his mind. So I waited for him I waited to see what he would do, and he crawled out of his pot, and then he went up, and then I guess he got too heavy and he started drooping down. So I think these guys can be trained to climb. So if you have someone who has a lot of space, you know, horizontally and vertically at home, this is a great plant for them, and it's super easy. And the velvety leaves, wonderful. Yeah, I water it just like I water my other philodendrons during the summer, every day, every other day, depending on how hot it gets. During the winter, gosh, I mean, maybe twice a week, if that. And we're in the Philippines, and they all live outside. Just a very easy plant to care for. Propagating it, super easy too. Cut, because normally with somebody this big, the aerial roots have already gone into the soil and have already developed. Voila! So you have another plant. And that's how I ended up with 2 Glorious. Yeah, this baby's been propagated and shared with a few friends. So this is the gift that we'll keep on giving. Now, I would not be able to have an honest Valentine's Day episode if I did not recommend the Monstera deliciosa. I have a Monstera deliciosa compacta right here on my left side. This cute little leaf right here. Say hi. Yeah, little, and it's already got fenestrations, if you can see that. I have the Monstera, well, not a deliciosa, but a Thai constellation. I suppose it could be a deliciosa, right? Yeah, it can be, because I'm not going to get into all of that. There's a small form, a large form, and then we have the Thai constellation, which, based on how tight the nodes are, gosh, I'm getting into it. Based on how tight the nodes are, it is probably a large form plant. I'll have to double check that, and if I'm wrong, I'll go ahead and correct myself at the bottom of the screen. If there's no correction at the bottom of the screen, you know I was right. Okay, and then I also have this guy right here, this beautiful guy right here. That is a white variegated Monstera deliciosa, and that is a Japanese cultivar. So this cultivar is called the White Tiger, I believe. Gosh, I can't ever remember its name properly. But yeah, that guy, those whites, I mean, it's very, very heavily white variegated. Beautiful. But man, it had a rough time. It had a rough time with me. But we're now understanding each other, right? That's why I have that beautiful new leaf. And then right behind me over here, you'll see these 2 plants. And if you notice, I've got some beautiful variegation on this side and no variegation on this side. They're both from the same mother plant. So with these 2, I purchased the mother plant for, in 2020, I believe, for $50. And it was a mother plant that was green, but showed a little tiny bit of variegation. It was a sport variegation. And I was like, yes, I want it. You know, Monstera albos. I'm sorry, Robert. Anyway, Monstera albos, as they're commonly known, were all the rage in 2018, 2019, 2020, right? And they were going for an arm and a leg, and I got it for $50. And at that time, it was just a small sport variegation. The owner wasn't sure if it would even variegate, and it did. And it's quite the awesome variegation because it's sectoral, all of them. And the thing is, this plant right here, one side of the plant would give me all green leaves, right? From like top to bottom. In fact, the newest leaf is green, and I guarantee you the next leaf will be the same sectoral variegation that all of these leaves show, because it's all the same variegation pattern. It's like, I don't know what it is, but it's definitely a special plant to me, and one that I've only propagated for sale once before. So the propagations that I make are just, you know, to keep around the house. And I still have my mother plant in my net house, and I have another small plant that's showing a lot of white on its stem. It had a beautifully variegated new leaf, small one, but its next leaf turned green. So I think it'll be turning out just like this cultivar, whatever it's called, in the future. The one that I did sell off is similar to this as well. So you've got half green, half white in the plant itself. I do have a large form that you guys may have seen in my previous videos. It was on my left side, a large form. And when I say large form, the nodes are similar to the Tai constellation where they were really, really close. That plant is a very mature plant. The fenestrations, I mean, gigantic. The leaves could cover my torso. It's huge. And it's still in the pool area because its pot is massive. I could have a small child, maybe 2 small children sit inside that pot. That's how big it is. But the Monstera deliciosas, easy plants. Easy plants from what I've... Oh, no. I take it back. Mostly easy plants. Me and this Monstera albo, we get along. We understand each other now. Its roots are wonderfully developed. You know, I had a problem with root rot earlier on. That was my issue, not the seller's, because the seller gave me a beautiful plant with some beautiful roots. The Monstera deliciosa yellow form. Yellow variegation. Oh my gosh, what a diva plant. I propagated my mother plant into 5 different nodes, and only 2 showed variegation. And out of the 2, only 1 is actually surviving. And I mean surviving in the nicest way possible. I can't take it out of LECA or PAFCAL. It does not want to be in any of my mixes. I mean, it is a total diva. And the thing is, it's like I want it to grow like my other ones and where they get huge and beautiful. Not the Monstera aurea. So if you have a Valentine who likes yellow plants, yeah, you know, you could go ahead and gift them a Monstera aurea. Would I recommend it? No. No. From my personal experiences, no. It's just a harder plant to care for. Monstera albos, I think that's probably the reason why you see more of them than the aurea, is because there are more people who are able to raise them and propagate them easier than the Monstera aurea. I mean, I don't know what my plant wants. If you know what my Monstera aurea wants, you know, if I could get it out of PAFCAL, let me know. No, I wouldn't try it anyway. It's such a beautiful plant, but it really is a more difficult plant to handle compared to the other Monstera deliciosas that I've shown you. And yeah, so definitely recommend these heart-shaped leaves to anybody who enjoys Monstera deliciosas, who likes the tropical feel, the fenestrations. You've got a lot to choose from, and there are a lot of sellers out there. So yes, happy shopping. So we've just gone through 6 heart-shaped leaf plants. I have 1, 2, 3. I have 3 colorful leafed plants on my list for you. And I will go ahead and get started with this guy. A favorite plant of mine. I have no regrets buying this. I bought this from Ecuagenera last year. It was on my wish list. And this is Philodendron devansayeanum. Also known, more popularly known, I guess, as Philodendron lynamii. And look at that beautiful new leaf, huh? How about that leaf, huh? So when it opens up, it'll open up into this beautiful heart-shaped leaf, but in pink. Yes. So it'll be the plant that makes it feel like Valentine's Day every time it gives you a new leaf. I mean, it's just this, it comes out this beautiful blush color. Yeah, oh my goodness, I'm sorry, I'm peeking. And it's just such a spectacular plant. It's got a little bit of, what is this, striations on its petiole. So even the older leaves have this red petiole insertion in the back. That doesn't show very well on the front, but you do see it right here in the top, the sinus. You could get this from Ecuagenera. That's where I got mine. And you know, normally it takes time to acclimate plants to our, I guess, farm, because it is a little bit drier here. This plant took off like nothing. It was so easy. So I have it in a mix of pumice, I have some rice hull, I have some orchid bark right here, some wood bark, some coconut coir, and coconut cubes, and bigger sized leca. Yeah, there it is. Bigger sized leca. And almost the same size coconut cubes. And it does well. It is a crawler, so you will need a rectangular container for it. There are lots of cool looking pots out there if you're looking for a ceramic pot, but just keep in mind that it will need to crawl along, so you will need a longer pot than a rounder pot. Just a really, really pretty plant, and something I would definitely recommend to someone who likes their pink leaves, peach leaves, whatever. You know what I'm talking about. Pretty pink, peach, mauvish leaves that'll make you feel like Valentine's all year round. So I know I constantly joke, moan, complain about begonias, right? I mean, I guess I do that because I'm only 50% there. I'm not really comfortable with these guys. This guy is my pride and joy. Pride and joy. It is flowering, and I have to be careful not to knock the other flower, the remaining flowers off, because I did knock a few off this morning. There was a hairy caterpillar on them, and those guys, oh, they don't feel good when they leave you their little stings. But this guy, yes, check that out. This guy's been with me for a while now. Yeah, I'm showing it with all of the holes and rips and everything. The caterpillars love them. And there's that pretty flower, 2 pretty flowers left, like I told you. And it's just such a forgiving begonia. New leaf right here. This is Begonia U497. And according to my friend JJ, who loves begonias, and someone I look forward to his begonia posts, actually. I live through him. He actually says that this begonia doesn't have a name yet. It's the U497 is actually its code in the begonia library. But that'll work. The code doesn't matter. What matters is that you've got a beautiful plant that has a caterpillar at the bottom. Oh my god, and it's running. Hold on a second. And he's got a little yeah, so what matters is that you've got this beautiful plant that is easy to grow. My god, how many caterpillars do I have under this thing? Yeah, so what matters is that you've got this easy to grow begonia, which just, I mean, brings me great joy. My live begonia percentage batting average has gone up because of this guy and because of a couple more that I got from friends. Yeah, just great news. I keep them in regular pots, right? But I don't fill the pots all the way. I don't know, it works. And I just fill them halfway with media. The ones that I have alive are all in the same kind of boat. They do the same thing. I don't really do pesticides here or insecticides because I live on a farm, and a lot of insects that we have here are also friendly insects to the vegetables and fruits that we have here, so I try not to spray anything with insecticides or pesticides that could harm the other bugs here as well. Proof positive that I am not a complete begonia killer. In any case, I would definitely recommend begonias just because there are a whole variety of colors. You have them from reds to greens. Some of them have patterns, like the iron cross is green with a black looking cross in the middle. My friend Albert Howell Tang, if you haven't watched my video with him yet, you want to, because he is a begonia master. I mean, he's got everything. Begonias that don't look like begonias, begonias that look like they'll stab you, begonias that, you know, are furry. He's got them all. They're all gorgeous, and I've got begonia envy from people who are able to keep them without killing them. But if you've got someone who is, I guess, good with African violets, or is looking for a challenge, who needs to step up their plant game, begonias, would definitely recommend them. So I got this plant as a cutting, and it wasn't doing too great as a cutting. It had been, I'm not going to mention names, but it was freshly cut and then wrapped in damp newspaper and packed away for a few hours before it was given to me. So, you know, I like to call it my steamed Philodendron Pink Princess. But since I put it in Pascal, the roots have gone wild. I don't know if you can see them at the bottom, but yeah, definitely wild. Like I said, in Pascal we trust. Philodendron Pink Princess is another plant that I would definitely recommend for Valentine's Day. If you have someone in your life you want to gift a colorful philodendron to, I would definitely recommend this guy. Some of the varieties of Philodendron Pink Princess actually come out, gosh, where's the newest leaf? Like a dark brown or almost black color, and then you've got those bright magenta variegations. Or you could have some of them come out like this, where they're green with light pinks. So there are, just like there are a whole bunch of varieties of philodendrons, there are also a variety of pink princesses out there. Another thing that's really interesting about it is that it's got these cool pink variegations along its petiole. Yeah, I mean, it's just an attractive plant to look at. And you never know what the next variegation will look like. So as you can tell, small variegation here, we've got a little bit more variegation here, and then we've got a sliver of variegation here, for shame. I have two Philodendron Pink Princesses. The other one is a little bigger than this, but the variegation isn't as pretty. So like I said, it really is a roll of the dice for these guys to see what they look like. My biggest tip for you guys when buying a Philodendron Pink Princess is to have a look at all of the leaves when you buy it. Don't just look at that, you know, newest leaf that may have fantastic variegation, because the other leaves, if they don't have good variegation, there's a good chance that might go back to that. Also, if you're buying a cutting, have a look at the mother plant. See what the variegations on the mother plant looks like, and that might give you an idea of what to expect from your Philodendron Pink Princess as well. The next plant on my list is the Ceropegia woodii, or better known as the string of hearts. Now, I've got a story to tell, and I don't know how great this looks like now. And like my card said, you know, let's get tangled, Valentine. Oh yeah, I wish I could untangle this easier, but it is what it is. So this used to be a very, very long string of hearts, right? See how long that is? Yeah, it was a totally trailing string of hearts, full of variegated string of hearts, like this right here, and the regular string of hearts, like this guy right here. Now, what happened was, I had it in my pool area, and it was minding its own business, living its life, doing wonderfully, I might add, and I assume they were birds, because I did see a few birds flying away with what looked like twigs in their mouths. So it turns out that the birds were taking my string of hearts home with them. So they didn't just appreciate them by looking at them, they actually appreciated them in their nests as well. My point being that this was a few months ago, and I was heartbroken to say the least. A few months ago, but look, they're still alive. So this is the first time I've actually tried to take this plant apart, and I'm not planning to do this entire episode, trust me. But I did want to see what it looked like minus all of the dead leaves, because I really couldn't deal with it at that point. I was just so heartbroken over how badly it was mauled. And it looks like it's actually doing well. I like to call these potatoes. I'm not sure what they're called. I'll find the name and I'll put it at the bottom of the screen. But they're grown from these little potato looking structures like these guys right here. And I see a whole bunch of them, and right here I've got a small little potato with some leaves coming out and roots. So it looks like they're fairly easy to propagate. I haven't tried propagating one yet. And after this video, oh, and that's a variegated string of heart. How about that? So after this video, I probably will try to untangle this and make something of it. But it is a stunning, stunning plant, as you see right here, right here. I don't know. I'll put it on the screen, what it originally looked like when I first got it. But it's a stunning plant. I mean, nothing more romantic than hearts, right? Yeah. The potatoes indicate that it's more of a succulent type plant rather than an aroid, because if you remember ZZ plants, they have that potato looking thing as well. None of these are edible. If you're a foodie like me, resist the urge, okay? But yeah, these are easy to care for and they're stunning once they're trailing. There we go, that's the word. Mine isn't the best example, but mine was a battle with Mother Nature, one that I will never win because I have most of my plants outdoors. What I will need to do though is I will need to keep this in my greenhouse, one of my greenhouses I think, or in the potting shed where it could just continue to grow and flourish again. I would recommend this with somebody who likes hanging plants because this does well when it hangs, or trailing plants, things that are just falling over on itself. People who like heart-shaped plants, if you get the variegated version, really stunning. It's white, it's got white margins, and then this green-gray center. And new leaves have these pink tint to them. So it's a really, really charming plant and a really stunning plant. So the next plant on my list is a fern. And I recommend ferns. I know it's not everybody's cup of tea, but I love ferns. I love the Peruvian-looking ferns. I love the Boston ferns. I love the Staghorn ferns, and for today's purposes, I'm going to mention a Staghorn fern. And this is Platycerium ridleyi. And it is a stunner. It is a stunning little Staghorn fern. And this actually was doing really well until we moved. We moved at the end of December. And it was a little burnt in an area that I put it. It had direct afternoon sunlight, so you could see that part of the shield is actually burnt. Yeah, we're not going to mess with that. But it's since recovered. This one got stunted, but it's since recovered because we have a new shield popping out. These guys are super easy. I water them fully every other day when I water my aroids, when I water everybody else, but I also spritz them daily. So spritz, 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 everybody. Yeah. If I remember, I spritz them twice a day. I have my little spray bottle right over there. And this usually hangs right here underneath this tree, under where the camera is sitting. Yeah, I have trees underneath this, this opaque ceiling. And I'll show you, I promise I'll give you a plant tour of our house one of these days. But I digress. This guy hangs underneath a tree. It gets bright and direct sunlight. It's near the house so that I don't forget to spritz it daily. And it gets watered every other day because it's super hot here already and only gonna get hotter. Now, I live in the lowlands of the Philippines. So if you live in a higher altitude, I'm not sure if that's gonna work out for you, the advice that I just gave. So do find someone in your area who does raise Platycerium, Staghorn ferns, and see how they do in your area. I think I have 4 or 5 of these guys, and they are enjoying life right now with the care that I just described to you. I do worry about the summer when it gets too hot, but I will deal with it then. And maybe in the future, I will actually do a fern episode as well. Ooh, a mounting episode would be fun. Yes. I would recommend ferns to people who don't like the looks of aroids, who want something different. If it's just something where they have to spritz on a daily basis and it looks good on display, this is your plant. This is the plant that you want. This guy might be a little harder to find, but it's definitely worth it. After this episode, I'll be putting him in the ground. This is a variegated Caryota species, or better yet, a variegated Fishtail Palm. And it's got this cool looking palm shape down there. You've got all of these leaves coming out, and it's called a fishtail because it looks like fish fins. Now this guy, the reason I recommend it is because not everybody is into ferns or begonias, and they prefer bigger plants. Now these guys, well, the non-variegated versions I've seen higher than ceilings. I want to say that maybe a good 20 feet tall. So if you are looking for something that needs to be in a pot and you can watch it keep growing, keep growing, keep growing, this is your guy. I had him when he was yay big in this pot, and he's grown, he's doubled in size. So that's really exciting for me. I do have a place in mind for him on the farm, and I will be putting him in the ground. And if you know someone who has a similar, I guess, climate, maybe Hawaii, Guam, California, this would probably do really well in your area too. Plus, it's gorgeous. Look at those variegated leaves. It just makes for a stunning plant, and it's unique. And it's not an aroid for the aroid haters. Continuing on with our non-aroid plants, I have this guy. Say hello to my little friend. This is a Dioneae muscipula gold cup. So the reason I chose this plant to be part of my Valentine's Day collection is that aside from the fact that it has the name Venus, Venus of love, yeah, in its name, in its common name at least, it also includes the name Dioneae. Dioneae, which is the Greek Diane, who is also known as Venus. And one of its biggest fans is Charles Darwin, who actually thought the world of this plant. So yeah, I mean, what's not to love about a plant that hugs things to death, right? I've had this guy for a few months now. I've had some dead traps down here, but for the most part, it's super easy. I mean, I've got new leaves coming out of the middle, 1, 2, and new traps as well. It's just an easy plant to care for. It is the easier of my carnivorous plants. I do have a whole bunch of pitcher plants, and I mean a bunch, but for some reason they don't do as well here in our farm. I do have most of them on the same bar, and they keep giving me leaves. It's great, they're so lush, but they won't give me pitchers. It's like, do you not want to eat? Maybe I'm feeding them though. Anyway, content for another time, I suppose. It's an easy plant to care for with just some sunlight requirements. I don't give it the 12 hours that it needs, but it's doing well. It does need some direct sunlight, but I don't give it the 12 hours that it needs, and it's proof that it does well. Just don't forget the water tray at the bottom, because that's the most important part. And it's a super easy plant for somebody who doesn't have a lot of time and likes, you know, conversation pieces, because I think it's pretty cool. Definitely recommend the Venus Flytrap. Finally, I mean, we're swinging back to a kind of traditional plant in terms of it being a heart, right? And I'm referring to these guys right here. Can you see them? There's my hand, there you go. Right here. So this is the Variegated Hoya kerrii. If you watched my Hoya episode, I had a smaller propagation there, and these plants are actually known as Valentine's Day plants. You often see them in garden centers or in stores in these small little pots like this with those little hearts sticking out. Let me see if I could find one that's not in the best shape that I don't feel bad losing. Okay, so I'm back, and here's our little volunteer for this episode. So you're gonna see these guys planted in cute little pots like this, and you'll have them and have the little heart shape sticking out, and you'll have soil up to here. I wouldn't recommend buying them. If that's what your budget can afford, I would recommend buying it from somebody that you know who does raise Hoya kerrii. And that's because if you look at this little part that I tore off of my mother plant, right? You've got this petiole, this little part right here that attaches to the leaf. Now, if you cut this part here, this stem part off the node, all you're left with is this petiole. And many times, a lot of the heart-shaped leaves that are inside those little pots don't include stem parts. It just includes the petiole. And guess what's going to happen? If you have something just like this, no node, you'll have a zombie. So you'll have a plant that will develop roots right down here, but without a node, without any other material along the stem where something can grow from, that's just going to be it. It'll be a leaf that'll be alone and single forever. And we don't want to send that message to anybody, I don't think, right? right, friends? We're not that mean. So it'll grow roots and it'll live for a little bit. I mean, maybe a few months, maybe a year. I don't know. I've seen spent nodes last a year, so anything is possible. What isn't possible is having it grow without any part of the stem. Nothing's going to grow from a leaf. Something will grow from a stem. So that's the scam I'm warning everybody about, is when you see the single leaf Hoya kerrii, the Valentine Hoyas, refrain from buying them until you're sure that the person you're buying it from is actually someone you can trust. If they're not someone you can trust, then that leaf will probably be just a pretty piece of decoration. There won't be an actual plant that will grow from it. It really will be something pretty sitting around forever by itself until it dies. And it'll be a complete waste of money. Whereas if you get a Hoya kerrii from someone who's reputable, who has a Hoya kerrii, and is willing to give you a node or a part of the stem to go with it so that you could grow a new plant, that's the better idea. And probably the more practical idea, budget-wise as well. And it'll still be really cute to present because it will still fit in those cute little black pots and it'll still look like a heart. Get it? Right? So that's my scam warning as well, is to not buy Hoya kerrii by the single leaf. And if you must buy by the single leaf, to actually buy it from somebody reputable who can show you what you're buying and show that you're buying a piece of the stem and not just the petiole that attaches the leaf to the stem. Because we want to give the gift of life for Valentine's Day, not the gift of death. That is it for this Valentine's Day episode. If you enjoyed this episode, feel free to give this video a like. Leave me a comment in the comment section down below with your favorite Valentine's Day recommendations. Or if you have any other Valentine's Day scams, plant-wise, that you know about. I think it's probably a really important message to get out there for other people. And, you know, it should be something that would be discussed. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel for future content. And click on that notification bell so that you get notified of that future content. If you want to discuss this episode on Facebook, I am there on Facebook as Tasteful Nodes. I look forward to hearing from you there as well. But if you just want to look at pretty pictures to scroll through, or videos for that matter, check me out on Instagram. I'm there as Tasteful Nodes as well. Okay guys, until next time, sa uulitin, keep your nodes classy and tasteful. Bye.